The Navigator and the Eternal Horizon. The peace of Blossom Reach was short-lived. A new phenomenon, the Silver Aurora, began to drape across the sky, turning the stars into liquid ribbons. While others cheered at the beauty, Kiri felt a familiar hum in her compass. She stood at the edge of the floating docks with Lyra, a young scout who was the first to notice the birds flying not between islands, but straight up into the shimmering light. "The islands aren't just shifting anymore, Kiri," Bram said, joining her with a heavy bundle of blueprints. His face was etched with the realization they had all feared. "They're dissolving. The gravity that holds Blossom Reach together is being pulled toward the Aurora. If we stay, we'll go down with the stone." Kiri looked at the sturdy pivot homes they had built, feeling a pang of grief for the home they were about to lose. Panic rippled through the camp as the ground began to flake away into glowing dust. Alara ran to Kiri, her hands trembling. "We finally found a place to stand, and now the floor is vanishing again," she cried. Kiri took Alara's hands in hers. They were cold. Kiri led her in a simple rhythm, squeezing her hands on the inhale and letting go on the exhale, grounding her friend in the only thing that was still solid, the present moment. Zephyr was already at the construction site, but he wasn't building. He was staring at a pile of discarded sails. "We can't sail through that," he shouted, pointing at the silver void above. "There's no map for the stars, Kiri. This isn't navigation, it's a leap into nothingness." His voice cracked with the weight of his fear, his body stiff and defensive. Kiri stepped closer to Zephyr, not to argue, but to share her space. "The fear is a signal, Zephyr," she said, her voice steady like a heartbeat. "It tells us the old map is finished. But look at your hands. They are the same hands that built the pivot homes. We aren't losing our foundation. We are becoming the foundation." She placed a hand on his shoulder, helping him find the rhythm of his own breath. Bram hurried over with a prototype of a star wing, a light frame of wood and silk rope. "We don't need land to survive, Kiri," he whispered. "We need the wind." Together, they began to lash the sails to the pivot homes. They weren't just houses anymore. They were vessels. Kiri showed Bram how to use the echo seeds as weightless anchors, keeping the structures level as they prepared to lift off. Lyra came running back with a vial of stardust sap she had gathered from the dissolving trees. "It glows when the aurora is strongest," she shouted. Kiri realized this was the key. She and Lyra began painting the edges of the sails with the sap. As the sap touched the fabric, the sails began to hum, straining against their ropes as if they were eager to fly. The final shift began. The islands of Blossom Reach shattered into a million glowing pebbles. Alara stumbled as the gravity vanished completely. "Kiri, we're falling," she screamed. Kiri caught her in mid-air, using the momentum to swing them both toward the lead vessel. "We aren't falling, Alara," Kiri laughed, the joy of the unknown finally overtaking the fear. "We're launching!" On the deck of the lead ship, Bram took the tiller, but he looked to Kiri for the heading. The Aurora was a blinding wall of light. Kiri closed her eyes, feeling the pull of the light against her skin rather than looking for a path with her eyes. "The wind doesn't blow in one direction here," she told him. "It flows like a river. We have to steer into the curve, not against it." Zephyr was at the secondary mast, managing the lines. A sudden gust of silver light threatened to tilt the ship, and for a moment, his old panic flared. But then he looked at Kiri. He saw her calm, saw her breathing through the turbulence. He gripped the ropes and adjusted the sail, turning the ship's tilt into a graceful glide. He gave Kiri a sharp nod, a silent signal of his newfound strength. As they crossed the threshold of the Aurora, the world changed. There was no up or down, only a vast expanse of light and color, with other floating communities visible in the distance, all sailing the same starlit sea. Alara stood at the prow with Kiri, looking out at the infinite possibilities. "It's so big," Alara whispered, "but for the first time, I don't feel small." Kiri stood with Bram as the fleet settled into a steady, peaceful drift through the new era. She tucked her old compass away. She didn't need it to find north anymore. She had learned that being a navigator wasn't about finding a destination. It was about the courage to keep moving, the wisdom to stay calm, and the heart to lead others into the light. The future was unwritten, and Kiri was ready to write it.